There's also a problem with people wanting to be right, and they want to win. Like, if you believe that the Democratic Party is the only way forward for a rational, peaceful society, and you have this confirmation bias that only the Democrats have the answers to this, to that, the other things, or if you're a person that believes in God and the Republicans and we need the First and Second Amendment and this and you're so committed. People get so committed to these ideas that they're not willing to entertain any other idea, and then they fight rigorously. They fight as if you're defending your own life, your own soul. You don't fight. You don't discuss these things on the merits of their, whether or not this is a good concept or that's a good concept. You're literally almost arguing for your very existence being valid. And it's very strange because people equate themselves, they attach themselves to ideas. And when their idea gets challenged, they get emotional, they get excited, they get angry, they get aggressive. And it's so sad to watch. It really, especially as people get older. When I see like a 60-year-old man who gets hyper aggressive and starts yelling at people about ideas, it's like, God damn it, calling people morons, calling people assholes. It's like, just talk about the idea. Just don't attach yourself to it. Talk about the idea. You'll look far better. You'll appear far more intelligent. It's a far more evolved way to communicate about things. But so many people are just completely incapable of it. When they're challenged on their ideas, they can never say, I'm wrong. They can never say, oh, I was incorrect. I thought this. Like, they literally don't have the ability to do that. They will find some way to try to pretend that they were wrong or that they weren't wrong. It's very bizarre.
It is bizarre. I mean, I immediately think of neuroplasticity is robust early in life and it tapers off, right? And there, brilliant people like Richard Feynman, the great theoretical physicist. I mean, he was known for doing crazy things, bongo drumming naked on the roof of Caltech, but also deciding to become an artist, not a great one, but an artist late in life. Or he also wrote a lot of theorems and did his work in strip bars in Pasadena. He loved being among different types of people, and he believed, and he wrote a lot about this, that remaining curious, genuinely curious, and I define curiosity as being interested in something without being attached to the outcome. Right? You legitimately want to find out what's on the other side. That maintains this youthfulness and this plasticity. And I think when one approaches a conversation of any kind from the stance of I don't want to find out, I want to be shown to be right.
Yeah,
curiosity is dead, right? And that. I mean, I think that's tragic.
It's just very difficult to get people to sit down and have civil conversations when they have hot button topics that they're opposed to. Like if one person is hardcore right wing and one person's hardcore left wing, to have them sit down and have calm, rational conversations is incredibly difficult because everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to, because you're literally defending yourself. It's not just an idea. Like, say, if you want to talk about the First Amendment and whether or not freedom of speech should be, like the First Amendment protection should be extended to social media, or whether or not social media should be thought, like things like Twitter, which is it the town square or is it a private company? Like these kind of discussions, like people will get fucking emotional and furious and angry and ad hominems and
they lose jobs. I mean, grown adults throw themselves on the stake.
It's so wild.
It's crazy.
It's wild, but it's indicative of what we are as a human species. Like we have this incredibly strong desire for validation, an incredibly strong desire to have our ideas reinforced, not challenged, because we attach our idea to our own self-value and our own self-worth. I've done my very best to distance myself from that as much as possible. And as I've gotten older and had more of these kind of conversations, I've gotten better and better at it.
But you seem like you straddle multiple viewpoints on a number of things, or willing to have that. I was curious, has anyone ever walked out of here like it felt so confronted that they just would? No,
I'm nice. If I don't get along with somebody, there's been people that I wanted to attack. Believe me.
Or that you wanted to walk out of here.
Well, there's some people that I've just like, God, you're so sloppy and lazy. Like these thoughts are just so weak. And then I will see them, talk about the experience on Twitter. And I'm like, oh my God, you're just so lucky I didn't go after you. Because it's like there's so many people that have these sloppy, lazy ideas, and then they exist in these echo chambers.
Well, this is one place where I think a scientific training is useful, independent of whether or not one decides to become a career scientist. When you take your so-called oral defense examination, you get up there and there's 5 or 6 different faculty and your qualifying exam, and they ask you questions until you say, I don't know. The idea is to find where your cliff is.
Right.
The moment that you start wondering and stumbling, that's when you actually know you're doing a good job. I mean, you don't want to do that too early, but they'll ask crazy questions, hard questions that are unrelated to anything you think you should have to prepare. And I sit on these committees now. I sit on the other side of the fence. Social media for me has actually become a good kind of repeat of my qualifying exam, because occasionally something comes in that I go, wow, like I never thought about it that way. You're absolutely right. But the moment you say, I don't know, that's when you are allowed to pass up to the next level in science. It's not when you know, it's when you are willing to admit that you don't know that they say, now you can go pursue a dissertation. Then you do a dissertation, and then you have to defend it. And everyone thinks, oh, you have to defend it by showing it's watertight. You actually defend it, but a really good defense committee, we all meet beforehand, and we're like, how are we going to beat this guy or this gal up? And we decide we're going to find where the leaks are and get them to admit that their study is wonderful, perhaps, but not perfect. And then you become a doctor of science.
Then you trust them.
That's right.
Because you trust that they're only interested in information that's factual. They're only interested in the facts. They're not interested in just getting their ideas reinforced.
That's right.
But it's a complicated dance that human beings do, because your ego is involved and your reputation is involved. And that, for a lot of people, that's a lot of who they are. A lot of who they are is how other people see them. You know, there's a lot of folks out there that, you know, day to day, their life depends on you. I mean, I'm sure you've met people that got offended by something that doesn't seem logical to be offended by.
I'm tempted to raise the story, but I'm not going to, because I don't want to draw fire again. But no, I once credited a colleague who was an amazing colleague, and someone picked up on something in the article about them that was totally unrelated and was of the times and what. And it was like suddenly the conversation had shifted completely. And then you realize it's all about them. It actually has nothing to do about the topic.
Yeah.
And that's where I think things can get really diverted. I mean, I tend to not respond to comments too often. Occasionally, you know, thanks for your interest in science, and like cue people to an episode. I do not get into online debates. I'm happy to do it on a podcast, but I don't do it in comment sections.
It's too hard.
It's too hard.
It's a shitty way to communicate too. You know, if you sit down across from someone, you look them eye to eye and have a conversation, people tend to be more civil. They tend to be more kind. It's so easy to be shitty with text over Twitter. Yeah. It's just so easy, and so many people engage in it. I was watching a friend of mine